man. I don't know about the special effort you made. That's why I was shaking your hand. All right, we might have one or two to come over to this side, please. One or two, please. Okay, very good. All right. I will wait on the adjustment that's being made. When you're ready as members of the press, just raise your hand and I'll know it's ready. Okay, we still have one additional. Let me thank the members of the press for being here on exceedingly short notice. This notice was given to you approximately an hour ago, and you have responded in a very positive way, and we're most appreciative. I also want to thank the many persons who are assembled here with us for appearing on very short notice. This short notice is due to the fact that I was in Washington, D.C. on yesterday, flew into Houston, Texas, and prepared this press conference on very short notice. It was important that I be in Washington yesterday, and it's important that I be in Houston, Texas today, because we have to inform the people here in Houston, especially those who are in the 9th and 18th congressional districts, what the current status of affairs are as they relate to what is a crisis created by Republicans, a Republican crisis / scheme, because it is a scheme. Please allow me to read a prepared statement and then give some additional comments. We are now 2 days into an unjust Republican healthcare shutdown crisis / scheme, which creates a crisis scheme with higher costs and less healthcare coverage for the American people. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream that included justice for all. Donald Trump and Republicans have an unjust crisis scheme to gut Medicaid, decimate the Affordable Care Act, and slash Medicare. Under the Republican unjust crisis scheme, millions will lose health care coverage and millions more will face higher costs. Millions of Americans will lose health care insurance under the unjust Republican crisis scheme. And the Affordable Care Act tax credits will be decimated. There will be more than $1 trillion in cuts to medical care, and this unjust scheme will allow a transfer of more than $1 trillion from the sick and needy to the well-heeled and wealthy. Dr. King reminded us in 1966 that injustice in healthcare is both shocking and inhuman because it often results in death. The profundity of Dr. King's words still ring true 2 days into the Republican unjust healthcare crisis. The Republicans can end this crisis whenever they choose. They have the power to end the unjust crisis scheme that they have created, and at some point, after refusing to negotiate in good faith with Democrats, Trump and Republicans will vote to end the shutdown crisis. Some things bear repeating. At some point, after refusing to negotiate in good faith with Democrats, Trump and Republicans will vote to end their shutdown crisis scheme after having caused much pain and suffering imposed by their dastardly shutdown crisis scheme. Friends, this did not start a few days ago. This started in 2010 when the Obamacare legislation passed and was signed into law. Since that moment, my colleagues across the aisle have been scheming and scamming and trying to find a way to eliminate, eviscerate, decimate, and literally obliterate Obamacare. They have tried unsuccessfully for some 70 times. And for more than 60 times, I have voted against their efforts to repeal without a replacement for the Affordable Care Act. This latest crisis that they created is but a continuation of the crisis that had its genesis in 2010. We cannot allow them to succeed now. We didn't allow them to succeed in 2010. We will not allow them to succeed tomorrow. They can never succeed in taking health care from the American people. They want to do it because this is where the money is. They understand that they can take this $1 trillion or more from health care and transfer it to the very wealthy, as evidenced by some numbers that I will share with you currently. These numbers are very shocking in terms of how they impact people and the healthcare system. Here's an example. We are now going to lose over $4.5 trillion because that's what the big, beautiful tax deal is imposing upon us. $255,000 is the average tax cut in 2027 for the top 0.1%. The top 0.1% will receive $255,000. For edification purposes, that is about $698 per day. Those persons who are making about $50,000 annually or less, they will get $265. That is about 72 cents per day. The well-off, well-heeled, and well-to-do will get $698 a day. The least, the last, the lost, those persons who are trying to find their way, they're going to get 72 cents per day. This is the kind of transfer of wealth that cannot be tolerated because it impacts the health not only of people, but the health of our nation. The health of a nation depends on the health of its people. We must protect the health of the American people, and that is why my friends are here with me today. We must also remember this, that if health care is denied by way of Medicaid and to some extent Medicare and the subsidies that are under the Affordable Care Act, if it is denied, this means that people are going to go to emergency rooms to get health care. It will cost more at the emergency room. Health care should not be administered at the emergency room, but that's what will happen. And then those persons who are able to afford health care will pay more, because when some people are removed from the system and the payments that they make, then that will be passed on to the persons who are left in the system, who are paying for insurance. So this impacts all of us, not just those persons who are getting Medicaid. It impacts all of us who will need health care, and I would dare say that's every living person. At some point in your life, you're going to need health care. Finally, I want you to know that there's a question that I will have to answer later, so I might as well answer it now. I've had one person in the press to ask me, what do you think about the fact that you're going to be paid while others who are laid off, who are furloughed, will not get their paychecks? Well, here is the answer. This is a letter that I have sent to the payroll department, and it reads, I have been informed that despite a lapse in appropriations and current government shutdown, members of Congress will continue receiving their salary. Please withhold my net pay until appropriations agreement is taking effect. So until there is appropriations being appropriated and paid to other persons, I am going to have my check frozen. It will not come into my hands. It won't go into my account. It will go into the hands of the people who ordinarily would send it to me, but they won't do so. The payroll department has made sure that will happen. I think this is only fair. I don't think members of Congress should be paid while others are having to suffer the loss of income. I think we should suffer equally, all of us. As a matter of fact, I think we have to have a law that says this is the case. And now, friends, I want to introduce some of my friends who are going to make comments. These are persons of goodwill who have made a sacrifice to be here at this time because I've asked them to come on exceedingly short notice, and I'm grateful that they have adhered to the request that I have made. We're going to start with State Representative Ron Reynolds. Ron Reynolds is a state representative who appears to be ubiquitous. He seems to be everywhere. Whenever there's a crisis, you can count on Ron Reynolds. Today, we have this crisis scheme created by Republicans, and as usual, the Honorable Ron Reynolds is here to respond. Thank you so much. Give him an expression of appreciation, please.
Thank you, Congressman Green, and I want to say thank you for leading by example. And I wish that other members of Congress will take your heed to suspend their checks until this furlough is over with. But I just want to say very briefly that the Republicans control the House, the Republicans control the Senate, the Republicans control the White House. And I think, Congressman Green, it is a shame that the Republicans are trying to blame the Democrats for this government shutdown. This government shutdown is squarely on the hands of those who are in charge and have the majority, and that is squarely with the Republicans. I appreciate Congressman Green and the Democrats fighting to make sure that Americans have access to health care. Health care should be a basic human right. It is unfortunate that Texas leads the nation with the highest number of uninsured. I know that these healthcare professionals can tell you that when people don't have access to healthcare, they don't get the preventative care. They get emergency room care that Congressman Green described. And when they can't afford to pay the bill, then we all shoulder that burden. So I want to commend the Democrats for fighting. I want to commend the Democrats for not rolling over to President Trump and the MAGA extremists. And I stand in solidarity with everyone in this country that is on the right side of history, demanding that the Republicans come to the negotiating table with the Democrats and make sure that Americans have access to health care and that we do everything we can to preserve this country. So Congressman Green, I commend you for holding this press conference, and I stand in solidarity with you. I'm going to continue to do everything I can to engage the American people so they understand that elections have consequences. Thank you, and let's continue to work together so that we can end this government shutdown and put the people back to work, because the only people that are hurting are the working class and the poor, and Congressman Green, the Republicans seem to only cater to the billionaires. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will next hear from a council member who has worked closely with me on many projects. We are considered partners against crime, and that is the Honorable Carolyn Henderson-Boss.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you for always leading from the front. I'm telling you, healthcare is already critical in this country. There is a problem with the state of Texas in particular, because the leadership will not expand Medicaid, which means that is why we have the most uninsured people in this country. The Obamacare covers over 22 million people because we're in a very critical time where people are losing their jobs and we're losing vaccines. The need for medical care will increase. So my question to the American public is, if you have the opportunity to roll the clock back, seeing what is happening, would you make a different decision? Would you decide to vote? Would you vote differently? Well, the fact of the matter is we can't roll it back, but there will be elections that you can show up for and impact. So I implore you, that is the way we speak our outrage. That is the way our voices are heard. So make a pledge to yourself that you will not miss another opportunity to make an impact on all of the decisions that are being made. Again, I thank you for this opportunity, And we'll make it through by the grace of God, because it's definitely not by the grace of the Republican leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. We will next hear from Bishop James Dixon. Bishop Dixon is also the president of the Houston NAACP. He does not hesitate to speak truth to power, nor does he hesitate to speak truth about power. Bishop James Dixon.
Again, thank you, Congressman Green, for calling all of us together today, and I appreciate all of our colleagues who are here from various stations of life to speak with one voice concerning this significant crossroads at which we found ourselves here in America. I want to speak certainly from the perspective of government shutdown, weeks perspective of morality. Thank you, Congressman, for pointing out to the moral injustice of not ensuring that every human being in America has access to quality health care. This is a fundamental human right. And in any humane society, health care would be considered a human right. The fact that we have legislators, elected officials, elected to serve the best interests of our collective public, who would want to pass a budget that cuts Medicaid and Medicare in these extreme proportions, suggests to us that we are out of touch with moral law. And I want to emphasize moral law. And I want to speak to the consciousness of Americans who understand that whether you are Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, there is a higher moral law to which all of us must rise and by which all of us will be held accountable. This is, as it's been stated, the largest transfer of wealth in the American history based on present policy and pending policy. We're witnessing what would be the largest transfer of wealth away from people in need to those who live by the principle of greed. And I want to say to us today that when you rob the poor, you offend their maker. The Word of God talks about oppressing the poor. This is absolutely an egregious, heinous act of injustice toward those who need more consideration. Let me suggest this, and that is this transfer of wealth puts other people in jeopardy due to poor health. The measure of increase into the coffers of the rich and the wealthy represents complete insensitivity to the well-being of those who are not so wealthy. It says to us that we do not value humanity beyond their bank accounts. It's also proven, of course, that these custom medicated health care will affect minorities, Black and brown people and other ethnic groups in our country more than it would others. It's racist, it's oppressive, it's unjust, and it is immoral. Here's my final urging, and that is, we need to consider, as we think about this budget that would cut and slash Medicaid and ultimate Medicare. Here it is, and that is the wealthiest 1% or 10% must be willing to give up a small measure of your wealth in order for the masses to have a moral measure of health. That's the real decision we've got to make. Do we make the wealthier, wealthier, or do we make the oppressed healthier? That's the decision we have to make in America. This is not a political decision. It's played out on a political playing field. It's a moral decision, and history will judge us in the future, determined by the decision we make today. We urge Congress, we urge the president to make the right moral decision, because the higher law to which all of us will answer will hold all of us accountable. Thank you, Congressman.
All right. Amen, Reverend. Let's next hear from our own Judson Robinson, President of the Urban League, former city council person, and a person that we can rely on to be of service to all of humanity, especially in Houston, Texas. The Honorable Judson Robinson.
My good friend, Congressman, and leader, thank you for calling us here together today. It's important that our voices be heard. We've worked in these communities for many years. We've witnessed the movement of the civil rights movement and all the progress that has taken place over many, many years. But in the past 12 to 15 years, there's been a determined rollback of the rights and privileges that we've all fought so hard to have. There's been an intentional destabilization of our beliefs, of our morals, of our mission as Americans to come together to work for a better America. An America that's fair, that's just, that believes in the privileges and rights of all Americans to have access to health care, to be able to depend on a living wage, to have fair housing. All these are things that are under attack. But when you reach to the core of our healthcare system, when you reach to the core of being healthy, that means a person's not in a position to work. A person's not in a position to have housing. A person's not in a position to seek education. Because someone has to make sure that a person goes to school every morning. If that person in the household is not healthy, that can occur. If whatever illness is transferred to a child, that child can now not go to school, missing critical days of education. If that prolongs itself, then it jeopardizes everything else along the equilibrium of a successful life. You won't be able to be educated. You won't be able to get a job. You won't be able to get housing. You won't be able to one day start your own business and pass on generational wealth. The Urban League and over 90 plus affiliates throughout the country have been on this doctrine since 1910 to fight for fair housing, education, opportunity, and just to make life plain and fair for the everyday American, but especially for those most encumbered when fairness is not at stake. And so, brothers and sisters, we know that we're talking about those who have been always disenfranchised from the American dream. Black people, brown people, marginalized communities, we are all suffering. But we played it by the rules. We fought the good fight to get to where we are today. But I guarantee you, if we don't fight back now, the clock will be rolled back. The times of the progress will end. So Congressman, let me encourage you to stay strong and to encourage others, other Democrats and our Republicans, that you must have some common ground. That we are all in this together. And when we are together, we win. When we're divided, we fall.
Before we bring up the next speaker, it's important to note that our two civil rights, human rights organizations, having spoken through their leadership, have both emphasized the racial aspect of this. And it has become very difficult, it seems, in this country to do what they are doing. Many of us now are declining to use the terminology associated with the injustice being perpetrated upon people of color. Racism is no longer a term that we can use to explain a racist circumstance. We have to back off. So I want to thank them and commend them for having the courage to still use the terminology that impacts people of color when there is racism being perpetrated upon them. I don't know how you say it without saying racism. without saying this is racist. And there are racist aspects of this that cannot be denied, just as that was the case in 1966 when Dr. King first, 1966, when Dr. King first indicated that this was a great injustice associated with healthcare. Yes. So now, the next speaker is someone that I have known for many years. He is one of the most powerful labor leaders on the planet. He is the president of the Communication Workers of America. He is a person who has made a difference in Houston, Texas, by putting the workers and the people that he is aligned with the people who need help. He has made a difference in the lives of people when it comes not only to their jobs, but also their working conditions. Of course, I speak of the Honorable Claude Cummings, president of CWA. Please come over, Claude.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for having us here today. Listen, Congress must act now to reopen the government and pass a funding bill that prevents high healthcare costs, increases, and keeps critical programs running. Trump and his allies in Congress have refused to agree to a funding bill that protects working people. Congress must ensure the funding bill protects our health care. Because of the budget bill passed by Congress this summer, over 4 million families could lose their health care coverage, and 22 million working people will see massive increases in health care premiums by the end of the year. This funding bill must also include policies to prevent the Trump administration from unlawfully slashing programs that Congress already passed legislation to fund. That includes programs like cancer research, Veterans Affairs hospitals, and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Let's get the Congress back and working for us. Let's sit down and meet with the Republicans, Congressman. I know you want to. Let's end the shutdown, and let's get the things that we need, that we have provided, that have been provided in the bill, in the budget bill. Thank you so much, Congressmember, for your for bringing us together on today, and I'm happy to be able to speak a few words with you.
Thank you very much. And let us move next to another labor leader, a person who really needs no introduction among those who are here, but I want the public to know about this AFL-CIO person who is a representative of this organization. Hani Khalil is a hands-on leader. He is out with the workers in the trenches, getting the job done. And we would expect him to be here today to continue to do what he does, and that is get the job done. Hani, would you come over, please? The Honorable Hani Khalil.
Thank you, Congressman, for those kind words and for bringing us together today. Yes, I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Gulf Coast Area Labor Federation, AFL-CIO. We're a federation of 75 unions, 60,000 union members here in the Houston region advocating for working people. And many of those members are federal workers who now find themselves in the crossfire of Donald Trump's government shutdown. Countless jobs, essential government services, and the economy are in jeopardy right now, all because the administration wants to take one more swing at the Affordable Care Act. The labor movement's message to the administration and their allies in Congress is clear. Get to work, fund the government, fix the healthcare crisis, put working people first. Look, the federal government is shutting down because the Trump administration chose chaos and pain over responsible governing. Trump and his allies are in control of the White House, the Senate, the House of Representatives. This shutdown is their choice. But federal workers and their employees and their families do not have a choice to go without a paycheck. As the government shuts down, hundreds of thousands of federal workers are being put on leave or will be forced to work without pay. More than 80% of federal employees live outside Washington. Most folks think it's in DC. No, outside Washington, all across the United States, including around 36,000 here in the Houston area right now. And they run essential services that we all rely on, caring for our veterans, processing Social Security applications, keeping our food and our water safe, protecting us at airports, and responding during natural disasters. But last week, Trump's budget director threatened to illegally fire hundreds of thousands of workers if Congress doesn't cave to the Trump administration's demands. Keep this in mind too. It's not just federal employees that will suffer.
Right.
It's that plenty of Houstonians who don't work for the government will still feel the consequences of Trump's choices right here. For instance, as of midnight on September 30th, when the government shutdown started, FEMA can no longer write new or renew flood insurance policies, leaving flood-prone homeowners right here in Houston, in this neighborhood, in a dangerous lurch. Around half of residential policies written in the state of Texas are right here in Harris County. Even while hurricanes are developing in the Atlantic, we no longer have access, homeowners don't have access to getting flood insurance. So what is this fight all about? It is about the Affordable Care Act again.
Yes.
The Trump administration wants to let health insurance premiums for some 22 million people who get health care through the Affordable Care Act spike by 114%, just before enrollment begins on November 1st. So just a month away, we're talking about people having their health insurance premiums potentially double. It is a crisis that will leave millions of working people without insurance, and it's going to raise prices for everyone. If you have insurance, and I think the congressman made this point very well, if you have insurance, we will all have our prices increased to cover those who now have to go without insurance. So don't think you're not affected, it's just somebody else out there. Here in Texas, we have more uninsured children than any other state. We cannot afford these kinds of cuts. We have 3.7 million Texans who are using Affordable Care Act plans. They are our neighbors, and they cannot afford to lose health insurance. So let me repeat our message again to the administration. Federal workers are not your pawns. Fund the government, fix the healthcare crisis, put working people first. Thank you.
Thank you. We will next hear from a representative of the American Federation of Government Employees. I am very proud of these persons because they have a great challenge. They are within the government, and yet they have to take on the government, which is not an easy thing to do. They face challenges that we cannot imagine, but they still march on. I'm thankful and grateful that Ms. Bridget Broussard Guidry has found her way here today so that she continued the march toward freedom. Ms. Guidry.
Thank you, Congressman. First of all, I would like to thank you for suspending your pay while ours are being suspended at the same time. So thank you for that, because a lot of people don't realize that Congress is still getting paid while they're sending federal employees home without pay or working without pay. I have been a federal employee for 42 years. This is day 85 of a furlough in my career. Without pay. Yes, we get back pay, but that doesn't help the immediate situation. I'm a diabetic. I need insulin. A lot of people think insulin is $65 for everyone. That's not true. I pay $165 for my insulin. And I need my insulin because I'm a type 1 diabetic. So this is important that the health care is intact. And health care shouldn't be tied to someone's job. The only way you have health care is you have a job. So we have employees that may not want to work, but have to because they need the health care. Without a job, you don't have health care. So I think Congress needs to come together, pass a bipartisan spending bill to end the government shutdown. In addition to us being furloughed, we have a threat of people permanently losing their jobs. That's even more stress. The employees that are working supposed to protect life and property. How do you protect your life and property if you stressed and worried about if you're gonna have a job at the end of the shutdown? So Congress, please come together, pass a bipartisan spending bill to end this government shutdown. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will hear from a very dear friend,
someone that I've known for many years and have great respect for, a person who leads by example. She is a nurse, and she is the person who is the president of the Fort Bend County Black Nurses Association. But she's more than a nurse and a person who leads the nurses. She is involved actively in the community. She was there when we had the crisis associated with the healthcare issues associated with the plague, that COVID, yes, thank you, COVID that beset us, to make sure that people got their healthcare needs, the shots that they needed. COVID was a crisis for her, but she still, notwithstanding the crisis, made her way to the places where a person could be helped. So I'm honored to have Lola Jefferson say just a few words. Lola, if you would, please.
Thank you, Congressman Green, for having us all here together. I want to say, as a nurse, I watched the patient. They are so sick, and with this cut, they're going to be sicker. The nurses are already stressed out with a huge caseload, and then with the cuts, the nurses will have a higher caseload. We need this to come back into place. Patients look at me and ask, what am I gonna do? I'm already doing bad, and now you're gonna take half everything away, and I don't know what to tell them. But what we need to do is open back up the government. Thank you, Congressman Green, for having us here today, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, and thank all of you for your comments today. Let me say a few more words and then take a few questions. The first is related to the congressional districts 18 and 9. It's important to mention them because they're currently under assault, as you well know. These congressional districts have had great representation through the years. The 18th congressional district has been represented by Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Mayor Sylvester Turner, Craig Washington, Lawyer Parks Salas, and of course, the Honorable Barbara Jordan. Well, these various congressional districts have a bit that they may lose if this healthcare scheme continues. Let me just point out something as it relates to the 18th congressional district. In the 18th congressional district, Bishop Dixon is going to have to make a departure. Thank you, Bishop. Give him an expression as he leaves, please. In the 18th congressional district, the people of this district will see their health care costs raise, and it will rise if Republicans allow this crucial, critical scheme to continue. It is believed that the healthcare crisis will send premiums skyrocketing, and for persons 60 years of age, a couple of 60 years of age earning $82,000 a year, they will see their premiums go up by more than $15,000. That's more than 234%. If you are a family of 4 earning $64,000 a year, you will see your premiums increase by more than $2,500. That's an increase of about 261%. That's the 18th congressional district. Now, the 9th congressional district has similar numbers in terms of what will happen. And I mention these things because these districts are not only going to suffer with health care, but as you know, they're being gerrymandered. And as a result of the gerrymandering, the people who are suffering in both of these districts about equally will now be combined into one district. So the suffering then is going to be insurmountable. It's going to be something that we will have to deal with in ways that we've not dealt with before. We have to be prepared to do this. But to be most prepared, we have to know what the condition is. And the condition is not going to be good. Now, finally this. It appears that this healthcare crisis created by my Republican colleagues, this scheme, is something that they find laughable. The president used what is known as a meme to denigrate Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House. It was not funny. People who are going to lose their health care are not going to be laughing. It will not be a joke for them when they see their premiums are going up, their co-pays are going up. It will not be a joke for them if they're living in rural areas and the hospital is closing. It won't be a joke for them if the emergency room becomes their only option to get health care. So we have to make sure that the president understands that for the American people who will suffer, this won't be a joke. But for you and your colleagues, Mr. President, who are very well off and well heeled and among the well-to-do, you and your colleagues, you're not suffering. You got the best health care in the world. And it really is a shame for you to have this level of health care and decide that those who have less can do more with less and that you need more to do more. This is a tragedy that you have made. This is not something that is happening as a result of circumstances beyond your control. Yes, you have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And yes, at some point, you will end this. You will, because you have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And you will end it. You will end it, and at that point, you will in some way try to blame others for what you could have done sooner. Yeah. Nobody needs suffer as long as they're going to suffer simply because you choose to allow a crisis to be created so that you can at some point come in and say, let me solve the crisis. We'll go ahead and vote now to end it. That is what you have done in other circumstances, and we refuse to allow you to do this with the health care of the American people. It is not a joke, and we're not laughing. All right, first question, please. And Dr. Shabazz is going to have to leave me too. Give her a hand.
I never do.
First question?
Congressman Green?
Yes.
What's happened nationally? Are there meetings set up, or are we at a standstill right now?
Well, we want to meet. We have tried to meet. As you know, the president declined to meet, and then he hastily allowed a meeting to take place. And at that meeting, very little was accomplished because what the Republicans see as negotiation amounts to, for us, capitulation. It is, here it is, you can take it or you can leave it. That's not negotiation, that's capitulation. We will not capitulate when it comes to the health care of the American people. So we are open to meet, but as you know, the Speaker of the House and my Republican colleagues have shut the House down. You can't go to the floor and make a speech. You can't bring issues to the attention of the House because it's literally shut down because they have concluded that the crisis is not worthy of having the House of Representatives open at this time. That is a mistake. They're going to regret shutting the House as they have done.
Okay, can you tell us what is the major sticking point? Is it their way or the highway, or is there something that can be done on both sides to open the country back up?
Yeah, my Republican colleagues can negotiate with us. Rather than say to them what they would say to me, here's what we'll take, and you can take it or leave it. We'll just simply say, let's negotiate. Let's negotiate. Let's come together and talk about solutions that we can agree on. And there are solutions that we can agree on. Now, as for me, we have to protect Medicaid. We have to protect Medicare. These programs are things that have saved lives. Remember now, it was in 2010 that this all had its start, its genesis. And because Obamacare provided health care to people, millions of people who hadn't had health care before. And my Republican colleagues saw that as wealth that could be transferred to people. And they're still trying to transfer that wealth that people need by virtue of needing health care. They want to transfer those dollars to the billionaires and the persons who have the best health care in the world. And we can't tolerate that. But I think we have to negotiate, not capitulate.
Okay, undocumented immigrants in the country, is that an issue? Vice President Vance made some statements about that. Is that a sticking point, or how does this affect
Well,
that?
they claim it is a sticking point. It is not a sticking point. And if you look in the packet of material that I have given to you, I've given you the law as it relates to this. Democrats are not trying to change the law. This is the law and you have it in your handout. But I'll read to you just a few words from what it says in this eligibility for federal benefits. And if you look at it, and you look at the very first paragraph, it starts with section 401, aliens who are not qualified aliens ineligible for federal public benefits. And it reads, in general, notwithstanding any other provisions of law and except as provided, and they give some subsections. An alien who is not a qualified alien is not eligible for any federal public benefit. And they go on to explain the benefits in question. And after the benefits in questions have been explained, you will understand that it boils down to this, generally speaking. If you are here in this country and you are hurt and you need emergency care, yes, we're going to provide that at the hospital. Every person who gets hurt and needs emergency care ought to get emergency care. I support this. Apparently my colleagues across the aisle do not. They would have a person who is hit by a car not go to the emergency room and get care, because that's one of the exceptions, emergency care. But they don't want that. I stand for emergency care. This law does not in any way get changed by what we're asking. We're simply asking that the laws as they exist that provide Medicaid and Medicare for people, that they continue, and that they be funded such that people can continue to get the health care that they have been receiving. We don't want people who should not get health care to get it. There may be some persons who have violated the law, but are you going to punish all of the people who get Medicaid because some people may have violated the law in some way that we don't condone? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to protect Medicaid, Medicare for all who are eligible to receive it pursuant to this law that I've given to you.
If you could speak to Texas, in particular Harris County, how this is going to affect Harris County. My understanding is some of the funding that was supposed to come into the state will not come into the state until this is settled.
Yes, you are right. And I do have numbers on Harris County. I'm going to see if I can pull those up for you quickly. But I can tell you that the people in Harris County, the people in the state of Texas are going to suffer as a result of this. And the numbers are such that we should all be concerned about it. Let's see, Harris County, hold on just a second. Well, let's just start here. We're going to have premiums, tax credits established under the Affordable Care Act, and were available for households with incomes between 100% and 400% of the poverty level. About 22 million people qualify. If the enhanced credits that are planned for the end of the year should expire, the recipients will see premiums increase to about $1,906. And this will be from $888 per year. So you're going to go from $888 to about $1,900, which is more than a 100% increase. And this can happen to people in the state of Texas and across the United States. So we're no different from others in this country when it comes to health care, and we'll be impacted in that way. And there are other ways as well that they can be impacted, but some of these things are not available to me at this point. I'll get them to you at a later time.
Okay. I'm almost done.
Okay.
President Trump mentioned that some of the furlough people, he'd like to fire them, or they may be fired.
Yes.
Or they may be fired. Can you speak to that, how that?
Well, at a time when unemployment seems to be creeping up, why would the president want to increase unemployment? Why would he want unemployment, which is creeping up at a time when inflation is also creeping up? Unemployed people get some benefits from the federal government by virtue of being unemployed. We still have to provide that kind of help for them. I think that the president is making a mistake, but he's not making a mistake because he thinks this is good for the country. He's making this mistake because he's a vindictive person. This is his vindictive personality, his desire to punish people when they don't align with his thinking. He believes, generally speaking, that he is above the law, and the Supreme Court has said as much as it relates to some circumstances, and that he is not only above it, but he is the law. We now live in a country where a president that has been declared above the law in some circumstances by the Supreme Court believes he is the law. When he says it, it becomes the law, and if judges challenge him, he'd like to see them impeached. He has no respect for the Constitution, as evidenced by the way he has treated the Fifth Amendment and the right to due process that persons have. This president is a person who sometimes thinks that he has been wronged, and because he has been wronged, everybody in the process has to be punished. Well, Mr. President, there are many people who think that they've been wronged, who don't have the power to just punish people willy-nilly, capriciously and arbitrarily. That's the message that I was sent to him. So he's just being vindictive. That's what it boils down to.
Okay, my last question, sir. I may have missed it, but when the government workers go back to work, will they be paid retroactively back, or is that?
That is what has happened traditionally. But under Donald Trump, well, Donald Trump thinks he's the law. Traditionally, that's what has happened, and that is what's supposed to happen pursuant to existing law. But remember, we're dealing with a vindictive person, a person who is willing to issue an executive order, knowing, in my opinion, that it is not lawful, but allowing it to be challenged all the way to the Supreme Court. In a sense, he's the guy who says, well, you may beat the rap, meaning you may win your case once you get to the Supreme Court, but you won't beat the ride. In the hood, that's said to people when they're arrested. You may beat the rap, meaning you get to court, you might win, but you're not gonna beat the ride down to the courthouse. You're not gonna beat the ride to the jailhouse.
Right.
Well, that's his philosophy. You may win in the end, but you're gonna lose until you get to the end, and that means he'll take it all the way to the Supreme Court. So I hope that he will honor the law, and all of those persons who have been furloughed will be paid. I'm gonna fight for that. I think we'll win that when we get to the courts, if he should decide that he's not going to honor the law.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, and friends, let me do this. Sometimes I have friends who want to make a final comment. I don't want to prevent others from having to say something as it relates to something that I may have said as it relates to the press. So if there's somebody who wants to give a comment as it relates to a question that the press had that you didn't hear me respond to appropriately, or you want to add some more to it, anybody? Okay.
Might I say something?
Yes, absolutely. That's
On the last question you asked, federal employees who have been furloughed should get paid if the law is followed. What is also true, though, is that employees of contractors to the federal government or individual contractors to the federal government, there is no law that requires them to get paid during this furlough period. So suppose you're a cafeteria worker at the VA just up the street. You're working for a company that's contracting for the VA. They are under no obligation to pay you for however long you might not be getting paid. So, and there are a lot of people who work as contractors to the federal government as well.
Okay, quick follow-up. The federal workers have insurance during this time?
Yes,
You want to speak to that?
yes, we do.
You do, okay, excellent.
okay. The insurance premiums, by the way, for those who are working in Congress, those things are not a part of their net pay. That's going to be covered. Those who are in Congress who are working. I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself and say the suffering that is most imposed upon any one person as a result of this ought to be imposed upon members of Congress. We should not be allowed to have benefits that others don't have at this time of need. And many of us can do well without our salaries. This is true. But many of the people, and I would dare say in my office, they need their salaries. They need every penny of them. And my hope is that, and others too, who are working across the government, I hope that at some point we'll pass a law that says members of Congress will have to suffer the same fate as others when there is a shutdown. The same fate, whatever that happens to be. And would you please now allow me to thank you for coming again on very short notice. Please, if you would, allow this message to get to the masses. People need to know what's going on. This is a scheme imposed by Republicans and President Trump. This is a scheme. It is a scheme to transfer wealth. And it started in 2010 with the passage of Obamacare. What we're seeing now is the latest iteration of it, but Democrats are fighting to protect health care for the American people. I thank you. And friends, let's go back to my office where we will have a quick debriefing. Okay, if you'll open the door and proceed to the left down the hall.
Thank you.
Go right here. I didn't get you. Who are you with?
I'm a bishop.
Oh, okay, all right. And who are you with?
I'm Rosalind with representing myself.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. Okay, all right. And thank you for